Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Jasmine Rodriguez. I'm with the Office of Congressman Castro, and I am his Grants and Outreach Coordinator. Thank you so much for attending and being here today for another one of our segments with the Texas 20 Grant Series. I have the honor of introducing our featured guests for today from the National Endowment for the Humanities and the National Endowment for the Arts. So Allison, happy to pass it on to you.
Great. Thanks, Jasmine. Let me pull up my slides. Does that look good? Great. Well, hello to everybody. My thanks to Representative Castro and for his staff, Jasmine, for putting together today's opportunity. I appreciate the chance to be here. This is really such a great project to do for congressional members, and I'm so happy that Ben and I have had the chance to be with you all today to talk about some of the work that the Endowment of Humanities and the National Endowment for the Arts do. I will also say Eric, who's the Executive Director of Humanities Texas, is also here joining us today. I will talk briefly about them a little bit later in my presentation, but he will be here to answer questions as they come up during the Q&A portion.
Yat a she Shelley Lo Yenishia, Bilagana Nishla, Nanastasia Tachini Bashichi, Bilagana Dashache, do Trabaha Dashanale, Lo Chantiel de Nasha, do Washington de Shagan. Hello, my name is Shelley Lowe, and I am Chair of the National Endowment for the Humanities. Thank you for joining this virtual presentation about NEH. As Chair, one of my goals is to expand the work of NEH into communities and organizations that may not be familiar with our grant opportunities or have not previously received grants from our agency. Whether you are a longtime grantee or a potential new applicant, this is a chance for you to learn more about the new opportunities NEH can provide you or your organization and answer questions you may have. I hope this workshop will give you a better sense of the work we do and how we can better serve you and your communities. Thank you for your time and your interest in the humanities. I appreciate you being here today.
So generally, and unfortunately, the first question we get on our work is what exactly are the humanities? And the NEH founding legislation uses a lot of fairly dry words to describe the humanities. But I really do think the best way to demonstrate is through the works and the projects that we fund, from museum exhibits to podcasts, to books, to teacher training, including the Jubilees Palimpsest project through the St. Mary's University of San Antonio. This is a digital humanities implementation grant that St. Mary's received for $325,000. The grant was used for the digitization of the Jubilees Palimpsest, which is a manuscript containing multiple texts relevant to the history of Judaism and early Christianity. And they used advanced imaging techniques, or spectral RTI. The project resulted in online publication of the manuscript and release of open source software to support image processing and future work. I know that most people don't connect digital with humanities, but we do. And this is just one example of the wide variety of projects that we fund. The key message that I hope you take away today is that all of the information is on the website, neh.gov. Our programs and our grants are competitive, but you won't get one if you don't apply. And if you're thinking about applying for the grant, I think the best way to start is reviewing our notice of funding opportunity. That's the guidelines. That will help you write a better application. They're all on the website, and I'll show you where they are. And then fourth, talk to the program officers. Contact information for each of the divisions is available on the website. They live to talk about their programs. And if you need any help in contacting anyone, please reach out to Rep. Castro's office, to Jasmine. They will be able to find me and will be able to get the information that you need. In terms of eligibility for an NEH grant, most of our grant applicants are US-based nonprofit institutions like libraries, museums, universities. They must have 501c3 status. But we also do have a few grant lines designed to support individual scholars doing research and writing. This can include independent scholars as well as college or university faculty. Applicants must be citizens and students are not eligible. We have almost 50 grant lines, so you might feel a bit overwhelmed when trying to find the right program for your project. But one way to find the right grant is thinking about your audience. Who are you looking to reach? And then look at the grants from the appropriate divisions. This is just a general cheat sheet of topic area that each of our grant lines falls under. I will say at the bottom here, institutions and infrastructure through our challenge programs. These are our largest grants, but they're also our only grants that have a matching requirement. Most of our grants do not have any match required. The 7th division that I don't have listed is our Office of Federal State Partnership. It plays a vital role in the funding of our 56 state and jurisdictional humanities councils, including, as I mentioned earlier, Humanities Texas, which provides both programming throughout the state as well as state level grant opportunities. So again, Eric is on the call as well as his grant manager. So if you do have questions regarding Humanities Texas, they'll be here for the Q&A portion. Our main website has all of our grant programs, and honestly, so much information, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I've just tried to walk you through where the grants themselves can be found. You'll see that nice big bright arrow pointing to the grants page. And that grants page takes you further and deeper into the grants in the divisions and the offices. You'll see here under the grants tab, a list of our divisions and offices. Again, we have 7 of them. And if you click on a specific office, you'll see the full line of grants for that division. For example, here we have the Division of Preservation and Access. And under the red box highlighted on the slide, the little slide on the left of your screen, you'll see listed all of the grants under Preservation and Access. And if you click on one of those specific grants, it's going to take you to its own standalone page. And this is where you're going to find everything you need to know about each grant line, including examples, deadlines, webinars previously recorded by the specific program officers, and how to apply. I've highlighted just 2 specific grants that may be of interest to you all. The first is a new grant we have called the Public Impact Projects at Smaller Institutions, or PIP grants. The deadline for the PIP is coming up very quickly. It is on Wednesday, but fear not, this will come around again. And the PIP grant is designed to help cultural organizations enhance the interpretive skill set and to develop your public humanities programming. The goal of PIP is to help identify the potential the interpretive potential of your humanities collections, support staff's interpretive ability, as well as launch new public programs to connect with new and existing audiences. NEH has designed this grant line specifically to encourage proposals from first-time applicants and those who have not received prior NEH funding. This is designed for small to mid-size organizations, and we have established specific criteria to designate what that means in terms of budget, employees, population reach, and those are all in the NOFOs, the Notice of Funding Opportunity. This is a non-exhaustive list of eligible activities under the PIP grants. I will share these slides with Jasmine and she will send them around to you all, so you don't have to hurriedly write down any of this, but this is just sort of an example of the types of activities that PIP grants are designed for. One other small grant program that could potentially be of interest is our preservation assistance grants for smaller institutions. Libraries, museums, historical societies, archival repositories, cultural organizations, town, county, records offices. This is designed for them to help improve your ability to preserve and care for your humanities collections. This could include special collections of books, journals, archives, prints and photographs, moving images, sound recordings, fine art objects, etc., etc., etc. This is designed to help you employ a consultant with specific preservation skills to help the organization preserve its collection. This is also a program designed to encourage applications from those that have never received an NEH grant, as well as smaller community colleges, HSIs, HBCUs, tribal colleges, organizations affiliated with Native American tribes, or those that have collections from underrepresented communities. This is just a brief overview of our review process in terms of the steps your application goes through. NEH staff review all applications for eligibility and completeness. And then sort of the hallmark of our work is the peer review process, these review panels. And these are outside experts in whatever field is covered under the grant. And during this process, evaluators read the applications, write comments, and provide ratings. They get together and they discuss the strengths and the weaknesses of each of the applications, and then decide which ones they would recommend for funding. NEH reviews those comments. They determine how many projects are fundable under the budget level, and make recommendations for the National Council on the Humanities. The National Council meets 3 times a year to determine which applications to fund under each grant. And then it goes to the chair, who ultimately makes the final decision. It's a very long process, but it's very in-depth and really makes sure the best of the applications are funded, and really gives each of the applications a strong, considered, thoughtful, reasoned approach in terms of funding. Again, I'm not going to go through all of this for you. I will just highlight here the top line in the middle, carefully reading the notice of funding and opportunity for your application. This is so important in terms of making sure you submit your application in the right format, comply with page limits, make sure that the format is correct in terms of PDFs. All of this is considered in terms of the initial review by staff for which applications are actually going to be eligible for consideration. If you get turned down, don't get discouraged. We do provide on request all of the reviewers' comments. That's the outside panel. So you can really get a sense of where strengths and weaknesses in your application are. Contact a program officer, have them help you walk through those comments, and then make sure you do reapply. The thing is, our grant, we can only fund about 15% of all applications we receive. So you really want to make sure you put the best foot forward in terms of your application. Finally, one way I would encourage you to get involved and understand more about our application process is to apply to be a panelist. We are always looking for interested individuals to apply. And aside from serving a vital role in agency, this really is a great way to get insight into the application process. Again, these slides will be circulated, so you'll be able to go to that link and sign up to be a panelist. Please do stay in touch. This is a couple ways you can follow us. We have newsletters, and I will happily take questions at the end for those that are interested. And I will turn it over to Ben now.
Great. Thank you so much, Allison. Just the next slide, please. Allison is kind enough to move my slides along, which means she's a great colleague, and also that I owe her lunch. So thank you, Allison. We're so grateful to Congressman Castro, echoing Allison's comments at the top, for all he does for arts and culture in the congressional districts in Texas and across the country. And thank you so much, Jasmine, for bringing us together today. And just a special shout out, if I may, to Maria de Leon, who's joining us today, a member of the National Council on the Arts, an esteemed group of individuals appointed by the president and confirmed by the United States Senate, who approve all NEA grants. So thank you so much, Maria. And our goal today is not only to provide a deep dive into the NEA's funding opportunities, but really I'd like to demystify the National Endowment for the Arts and our application process. Along the way, you'll see organizations from your community who have received grants from the NEA in recent years. And whether you're a seasoned grant writer or applying with us for the first time, regardless of the size of your organization, we want to make sure that you leave this meeting today knowing that an NEA grant is within your reach. And that means that you have the technical assistance tools you need when applying with us. And as Allison underscored, and I'm happy to echo it as well, please know that this is the beginning of the conversation. Make sure that you get in touch with us. If you'd rather go to Jasmine and Congressman Castro's office, again, they'll know where to find us. We'll put our contact information in the chat for you. But really, there should be no panic for you at some point that you forgot to ask a question. We're really here to continue this conversation and to make sure that you're in touch with the right folks at the NEA and NEH. Next slide, please. And Chair Maria Rosario Jackson of the NEA has implored us to continue to strengthen our work with communities across the country, which is why I'm really excited to join this conversation today. Since you all are here, I trust that you know at least a little bit about the NEA, but just a quick word about who we are. We're a federal agency and the largest funder of arts and arts education in communities nationwide, and a catalyst of public and private support for the arts. Next slide, please. And with support from Congress and arts champions like Congressman Castro, the NEA is able to fund organizations directly at the federal level and in partnership with the 6 regional arts organizations and the 56 state and jurisdictional arts agencies, as well as at the local level. And we couldn't do this work without those who have the greatest knowledge and proximity to their communities. And that's why 40% of our grant-making dollars flow through the regional arts organizations and state arts agencies. So when you're considering applying for federal funding, make sure you take a look at opportunities available with the Texas Commission on the Arts. And we really sincerely hope that you'll consider applying at every level, federal, regional, state, and local where applicable. Next slide, please. This is just a visual representation of what I mentioned in the last slide and just underscoring the importance that, again, you apply at the federal, regional, state, and local level. We want to make sure that your application is in the position to succeed when applying, and knowing how competitive federal funds are, making sure that you're expanding your opportunities when applying for federal funds, and certainly hope that you'll check out those opportunities that are available at the Texas Commission on the Arts. Next slide, please. Thank you. So there are certain requirements you must meet in order to be eligible for an NEA grant. You have to be a nonprofit, a federally registered 501c3 at the time of application, a unit of state or local government, or a federally recognized tribal community or tribe. Again, this is at the time of applying. You must have a 3-year history of arts programming. It doesn't have to be the last 3 years or even 3 consecutive years. A lot of these will be reasons why you might want to get in touch with us if you have any questions about arts programming, but important to underscore that you don't necessarily have to be an arts organization to be eligible for an NEA award. It doesn't have to be your primary mission. Just again, those 3 years of arts programming history. You must provide a 1-to-1 cost share match of non-federal funds. The match can be achieved in a variety of ways, including earned or donated income, and the match can be a combination of sources. We understand that the match might be intimidating, especially for small, medium-sized organizations or those that are volunteer-run. Great opportunity to get in touch with us and think through creatively together what the sources of a match might be. And for previous grant recipients, you must be in compliance with reporting requirements for previous NEA awards. Next slide, please. So our funding supports arts projects. On the left side of the screen, you'll see the types of organizations that we are able to fund. Eligibility, again, is open to tax-exempt organizations, including 501c3s, units of state or local government, including local arts agencies and educational institutions, federally recognized tribal communities or tribes. And it's important to note for K through 12 schools, school districts are eligible for funding, but not individual schools themselves. On the right side of the screen, you'll see examples of things we are not able to fund, which include general operating support, individual artists, with the exception of our fellowships in literature and our 2 honorific programs, commercial activities, as well as fiscal sponsors. And the full list of what we're able to fund and not able to fund is published in our guidelines on arts.gov. Next slide, please. So these are the different funding categories offered by the NEA, and I'll get into a little more depth on each one in just a moment. NEA has funding opportunities for organizations that include grants for arts projects, Challenge America, Our Town, and research grants. These are the largest grants we offer, and nonprofit organizations receive the bulk of our direct funding through these programs. As mentioned, grants for individuals are limited to our literary fellowships, and those honorific programs are the NEA Jazz Masters, which is the Lifetime Achievement Award for jazz artists and advocates, and folk and traditional artists through our National Heritage Fellowship Program. Generally, you can submit 1 application per year per organization. However, there are some exceptions to that rule, so make sure you check out our website again at arts.gov for any clarity needed on our guidelines. Next slide, please. So the Challenge America program really is what we'd like to emphasize it as an entry point for whether you've never applied at the NEA with the NEA before, or even for federal funding. In order to be eligible, you must not have been an NEA grantee within the last 3 years. And the reason why it might be a good entry point for organizations who've never applied with the NEA or for federal funding before is that it really primarily supports small organizations that extend the reach of arts to populations that are underserved. All grantees must address how their organization or audience has been underserved, and the definition of that word underserved is in our authorizing legislation, so defined by Congress, as well as informed by agency policy. And it refers to those whose opportunities to experience the arts are limited by geography, ethnicity, economics, or disability. And again, another reason why it might be a good on-ramp if you haven't applied with the NEA before is it includes an abbreviated application process, and we really make a concerted effort, even more so, to offer robust technical assistance, both online and over the phone. And the deadline for this program is in April of each year. Next slide, please. So the Our Town program provides support for creative placemaking projects. And if you're not of this particular field, you might be asking, what is creative placemaking? So the most simple definition is about strengthening local communities through arts and culture. Creative placemaking is when arts, culture, and design activities are deliberately integrated into efforts that strengthen communities. And successful Our Town projects ultimately lay the groundwork for systemic changes that sustain the integration of arts, culture, and design into local strategies. There are some additional eligibility requirements for the Our Town program. Most notably, it does require a partnership between a nonprofit and a local government, and the grants range from $25,000 to $150,000 and do also require that 1-to-1 match. The guidelines are posted in May of each year with an upcoming deadline in August. Next slide, please. So our largest flagship grant-making program is Grants for Arts Projects, and what most people think of when they think of an NEA award, and want to make sure that you're aware of an upcoming deadline of July 6th. So if you haven't jumped into a Grants for Arts Projects application, hope that you will soon. Applications are submitted to one of 15 artistic disciplines. And in addition to that July deadline, we have one in February of each year as well. Funding is available for all stages of the artistic process, and that can include creation, presentation, and exhibition, arts education and enrichment, as well as services to the field, such as conferences or professional development. There is that 1-to-1 cost share match again, and awards range from $10,000 to $100,000. And if you're wondering about your own annual budget and whether or not Grants for Arts Projects is right for your organization, please know that the project timeline can be for up to 2 years. The next slide, please. So we have a really wonderful Office of Research and Analysis led by our director, Sunil Iyengar, who does really groundbreaking work in the field of arts and social and behavioral sciences. Take a look if this is right for your organization. Absolutely happy to put you in touch with my great colleagues over there. There are really 2 types of research awards. One is in those social and behavioral sciences, the other around the value and impact of the arts. Next slide, please. So just as Allison underscored, lots of different ways to stay in touch before you've applied with the NEA or after if you need more feedback. Absolutely, as we approach deadlines, as we are for the Grants for Arts projects with that upcoming deadline at the beginning of July, check out our website and the applicant resources page. And again, Jasmine will be sharing these slides, so you'll have the link handy. Lots of live events with my colleagues similar to the ones that we're on now that are artistic discipline specific, and also just general office hours. Drop in, say hello, introduce yourself to more colleagues of mine. Listen in if you have a question. Great opportunity just to get to know folks and maybe learn something from other people who are applying with us at the time. Again, as Allison underscored, I can't say it enough, get in touch with us. I often joke that our contact information is almost too easy to find. Not only will you find my email address, as I'll put in the chat, but really the specialists and directors for all of our artistic disciplines. And if you have any questions about who to get in touch with, please reach out to me or Jasmine, and happy to make sure you're talking to the right folks. And similar to the process over at NEH, if you've applied with us and you'd like to know more about what the panel and similarly situated, your application is read by a panel of experts in your artistic discipline, as well as one layperson. So get in touch with us if you have any questions about panel feedback, about where the panel may have had certain questions or opportunities to strengthen your application. Next slide, please. So as I have many times echoing what Allison shared about applying to be a panelist at the NEH, please do so at the NEA as well. Congressman Castro is such a great champion for representation in the arts, and one way to do that is to serve on an NEA panel. The panelists are required by Congress to evaluate applications based on artistic excellence and artistic merit. We know that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and there's no better way to make sure that your community is represented in NEA awards than to serve on a panel. And as Allison mentioned, really a great opportunity to see the other side of the process. I've heard from a lot of successful grantees that one way that they've strengthened their applications going forward is to serve on a panel and hear what other panelists have to say about the strengths and weaknesses of applications. Next slide, please. So also one more time, I will echo Allison and say, stay in touch with us through different ways. Obviously, again, I will put in my email address, but follow us on your different social media platforms and also our newsletter. There's one general one, as well as if you have certain interests in specific artistic disciplines. My colleagues are really wonderful at just getting the good information out there and not spamming you all. So definitely stay in touch and looking forward to talking a little bit more and hearing what questions you might have.
Thank you, Allison and Ben. That was very, very informational. I wanted to also allow some time for Eric Looper. If you have any words you'd like to share, he's from Humanities, Texas. So I'd like to give him the floor.
Jasmine, thank you. I'll just say a brief word about Humanities Texas. We're the state partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities. We have a grants program of our own. We award grants to nonprofit organizations, cultural and educational institutions for humanities programming. So we don't provide operational funding as of yet, but we do provide support for programming. Our grants range from a few $100s to $20,000. So we don't have the capacity that NEH has to make those large grants, but our grants are very accessible, and we have a very strong grant staff, as does NEH, ready to help you out, standing by to meet with you to talk about your programs at any point during the process. So my colleagues Marco Buenteo and Jade Trent are here on the call. And Marco, if you wouldn't mind, would you drop the URL into the chat for where people can sign up to schedule a meeting with you and Jade? We've made hundreds of grants in the San Antonio area. In CD20 in particular, we've awarded grants to UTSA, Our Lady of the Lake, St. Mary's, Northside ISD, the Mexican American Cultural Center, Bill House Arts. So we look forward to working with you just as we work in partnership with NEH to serve the state. We're eager to work with NEH to serve the San Antonio area as well. So, and we're happy to answer questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. Well, if there are any questions, you are welcome to use the raise your hand function on Zoom. You can also write it in the chat and we'll read it out loud and have any of our guests answer those questions. I think the only question I saw in the chat so far was from Miss Nika saying, will the NEA grants fund arts projects in administrative settings?
Sure. So happy to, if there's additional context of what you have in mind. I think it's just important to consider our eligibility. So if you're federally registered 501c3, you have arts programming, certainly underscoring that arts programming is different parts of the creative process, and it could be professional development and that kind of work. But if you have specific questions about what that kind of administrative setting, happy to discuss that here, or I put my email in the chat, so happy to follow up as well.
Okay, and Ms. Nikas, if you want to add anything more, you're more than welcome to take yourself off mute and ask. Or like Ben said, you guys can have a side conversation via email. Just give it a minute. Okay. All right. Moving forward, any other questions? All right, I have Miss Letty Bueno has her her hand raised. Okay.
Hi, this is for Ben. Our organization was awarded a research and arts grant last year, and we're interested in applying again for the grants, the GAP program. But I heard you say that if we've received another NEA grant, we would be ineligible. Even though they're separate programs, I know they're under the NEA umbrella, would we be ineligible for a GAP grant?
Right, so typically one per year per organization, but definitely worth double. So I'm not sure, you mentioned the research award maybe last year.
Yeah, we received the award in 22 and have started the programming now in 23.
Yeah, so it sounds like
24.
Sure, so it sounds as though you would be eligible again. Always, of course, making sure, I don't know if it's for the same program, but good opportunity again to underscore that being able to apply to support the same program, not double counting the dollars itself. So it sounds as though absolutely, but worth double checking our eligibility, but sounds as though the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, any other questions? And like I just mentioned in the chat, I will be sending out a follow-up email to all that have registered for today's session with the slide decks from today that I'll get from Ben and Allison, as well as a link to the recording of today's session. So you guys should be receiving that before this Friday, by the end of the week.
And just one more word, and I know that we've shared a lot of information. And I know Allison gets at it a little bit, but the question of, okay, we have all this information, should we apply? Allison does a nice job of putting it pretty succinctly of, well, you can't get an award if you don't apply. But we know that it's a considerable undertaking to apply for federal funds or at the state level. We want to make sure that you have everything you need before you apply, but absolutely stay in touch with us, stay in touch with the Congressman's office. We know that there's, Jasmine has described that this is one of a long series of opportunities to learn more about federal funds. So consider applying, for arts funding, for humanities funding at the federal, regional, state, or local level, and stay in touch with the Congressman's office about other opportunities across the federal government as well. Congressman Castro is and Jasmine, such a great resource for all of you. And you're lucky to have him in office and Jasmine looking out for you all. So stay in touch with all of us on the call. We know that meeting us today is not the exact same thing as receiving a grant itself, but as Allison said, lots to do. If you're not successful the first time around, lots to do, lots to stay in touch, reasons to stay in touch with us, and we hope that you will apply until you are successful. So thank you all for your time today.
Thanks so much, Ben, Allison, and Eric, so much for your time today. I also want to mention to everybody, this is an ongoing session, so please keep a lookout for our next session in July. And then I also wanted to mention that you might be getting a few calls from our office. We are updating our contact information to make sure that you're getting our grants newsletter every Monday, and as well as any other grants news that we have and updates in terms of legislation and so forth. And then if you'd like to schedule an outreach meeting with myself in our office, I'm more than happy to do that. If you haven't had it already, my email will be distributed to you all when I send out the follow-up. But feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions for myself or for Ben or Allison. I'm happy to be that liaison in between for you all. But thank you so much for your time today. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you guys next time.
Hey, Jasmine, I'm sorry to tag on here, but I will say that we have a virtual grants workshop coming up on July 19th that's open to anybody. And so we will send information out about that through our social media and e-newsletter. But those of you who are interested, please just keep track of the Humanities Texas social media or look on our website and you'll get more information about that workshop. But again, it's on July 19th.
Thanks, Eric. I'm happy to include that in our follow-up email as well, so everybody gets that. All right, well, have a great day, you guys. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.